Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Andy Curry, and I am fired up today because I have on the line with me Wes Schaeffer, who has been speaking professionally for 9 years. And the content he speaks on is on sales and marketing automation for the entrepreneur. I'm really anxious to hear about this. Now, Wes speaks primarily in the U.S. He's based out of California. He has written 2 books. The first one is called The Definitive Guide to Infusionsoft. The second one is called It Takes More Than a Big Smile, a Good Idea, and a Twitter Account to Build a Business That Lasts. Wes, welcome to the program.
Hey, Andy, thanks for having me on.
I am very happy that you're here with us, Wes. Let's talk about your speaking business. Now, you're obviously a marketing guy who has a lot of savvy in what's going on. You're helping entrepreneurs. And so if you would, tell us what you're telling them and give us some tips that you're helping them with.
Well, you know, when I got out of the Air Force in '97, I got right into commission sales. And I learned after about a decade that I was a marketer trapped in a salesman's body. And I was always just totally confused at how at odds sales and marketing are, and especially in the large enterprise where I was. And I got into sales training because I was always trying to get better, right? I was reading the books, I was attending the conferences, buying the CDs and the DVDs of all the classics, right? From Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins on up. And as I applied what I learned to my own business, I did better, and then I would look at my bosses and managers and think, do I want to be where they are in 5 or 10 or 20 years? And the answer was no. So I launched out on my own to teach what I had been doing, right? Not just what I had been learning. And obviously, started out on my own. I was a small business. I was an entrepreneur. And I kind of gravitated towards similar individuals, mainly because working with a large company, especially early on, I didn't feel like I could move the needle, right? When you work with a Dell or an IBM, there's so many people. How can you really make an impact? But when I work with a business owner of a 5 or 10 or even a 50-person company, I can make an impact. And the biggest thing that I would teach the business owner is that their number one job is to market themselves, okay? And a sales manager, their number one job is to recruit. And I can talk about that in a little bit. It doesn't mean you're hiring, but you're always looking for top talent. And as a salesperson, believe it or not, your number one job is not to close the sale. Your number one job is to prospect, okay? Because you and I cannot control, we cannot force that other person across the table or on the phone to buy from us. But we can force ourselves through discipline and accepting responsibility for our own success. We can force ourselves to get up and do the right thing every minute of every day during the business day, and that is to prospect. And if you do the right activities, just like working out, right? If I watch what I eat, and if I burn more calories than I consume, and I do the proper exercises, I will improve my physical fitness, right, and my overall health. So the same thing with sales. Your job is to prospect. And when you prospect, believe it or not, your job is to disqualify. And I always use the example of an attorney. You always see an attorney, you know, they'll say, first consultation, your initial consultation is free. That attorney is not looking for a new case when you come in. That attorney is going to pepper you with a lot of questions because most of them take on these cases on contingency. It's like a salesperson, right? Salesperson doesn't eat unless they make the sale. Same thing with an attorney. They don't eat unless they win that verdict for their client. But they have to ask the hard, right questions up front. If you come in for a workers' comp claim, that attorney is going to grill you. Have you ever filed a claim before? Were you under the influence of any prescribed medication, illegal medication? drugs? Were you drunk? Have you ever filed, any type of claim against this company already? Were you on any type of disciplinary action, or put on notice? On and on and on. Because if anything doesn't smell right, that attorney will not take your case. Okay, and it's the same thing in sales. You need to know who the right people are, and you need to ask the hard right questions up front instead of just hoping that you're speaking to the right person and hoping they have money and hoping that they're the decision maker. You have to ask these questions, and hearing no up front is a good thing. I'd rather hear no in the first 5 minutes or first 30 minutes and understand that there's truly an obstacle, something that we can't get around, okay, that makes that person not a fit. I'd rather hear that now than a week later or 6 months later, when I think this deal is a done deal and I'm adding it to my pipeline, to my forecast, only to have it blow up because it never really was real in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say, I'm not necessarily a motivational speaker, but if you like knowing exactly what to do and how to do it to get the job done, and that motivates you, then yes, I'm a motivational speaker.
The no part, that's a hard thing for especially beginner people, but even probably intermediates to wrap their head around, because it's very often taken as rejection. Would you say?
Well, it can be taken as rejection, but when I hear no early on, it's more of asking the hard right questions. If I don't know, if I work for a company and we sell, off-roading equipment, somebody comes in to buy, and I'm like, have you ever purchased off-roading equipment before? No. Okay. Are you buying this, for yourself or for somebody else? Well, maybe for somebody else. Okay. So I'm going to take this in a different direction. So it's not necessarily, saying you want to buy something right now. So the no can be about their current situation, and even the question can be, are you like this software that I sell? A lot of times I replace software that people pre-buy, they prepay for an entire year. Okay, so I could ask them, literally, are you ready to buy now? No. Why not? I'm in month 6 of a 12-month contract. Okay, it's good that you're looking now. In about 90 days, you're going to want to buy your new software, so you have a 90-day runway to make the transition. So hearing no is really, in that case, it's a not right now. But now I know how to speak to them. I can kind of dial it back. I can get some more information from them. Then I can add them to my nurture sequence, and I can follow up with them over the next 90 days so they are ready to buy from me at that time. And then we're not rushing. All right, now they have time to make that transition. So it's not necessarily, no, I'm not buying from you right now or ever, because I just don't like you. It's like, no, I'm not ready right this second. So yeah, people need to get over the thinking that they're just rejecting them as a human being, and they're condemning them to a life in hell. It's not that way. It's just, they're just saying no to what you're offering right now. But again, you've got to have better questions up front. And an example I always use as well is if I'm I have Wes's furniture store, and you come walking in, and I run up to you and I say, hey, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. How can I help you today? 9 times out of 10, what are you going to tell me, Andy?
I'm just looking.
Okay. It's a self-defense mechanism. You may be there ready to buy, but because of my approach, you're like, hey, back off a second. Let me catch my breath. I want to kind of look around. I don't even know if I like you or this store.
Right.
Now, if I walk up to you, though, and I say, hey, welcome to Wes's Furniture Store, what brings you in today? Okay, that one small change. I'm still engaging you and still asking a question. And questions are important because whoever asks the question is in control of the conversation.
Right.
Okay, but now I walk up to you and say, hey, what brings you in today? you have to stop looking around. You have to stop looking down at your smartphone, and you have to look at me and answer that question. Right?
Yeah.
And by asking a question you're not ready for, chances are I'm going to get an honest answer. Okay? And the answer could be, hey, you know what? I just dropped my kids off at karate next door. I just, kind of browsing, really just wanted to get out of the heat and, stay cool for a little bit. Hey, no problem. We got lazy boys in the back corner. I got a big screen TV over there. There's water and coffee as well. Let me know if you change your mind. Okay? No pressure, no sales. You didn't turn me down. You answered my question. You're not a prospect right now. I'm not going to pressure you. Okay? Now I can focus on the next person who may have money. Okay? But if you come in, you say, hey, you know what? It's my anniversary coming up. I want to surprise my wife. She's tired of our dinette set, and she had mentioned she saw something that she liked. I was hoping you could show me. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Now I know exactly why you're here. I'm not going to show you couches. I'm not going to show you, bedroom sets. Let's go right over to the dinette set. Everybody's happy. We're efficient. I answer your questions, and chances are I'm probably going to make that sale simply because I stacked the odds in my favor by how I opened. Salespeople always say, "Oh, but I'm different. I'm great once I get in front of a qualified prospect." I'm like, well, yeah, so's the cashier at McDonald's. How can I take your order?
Yeah.
Right? So your job is to prospect. So they say, oh, I'm different. If you're different, if you're not like all those other cheesy, high-pressure salespeople, then prove it by acting differently from the outset, right? From the moment you open your mouth, from their very first impression of you, be different. And you do that by asking better questions, okay, right. Instead of assuming. I'm not going to assume, oh, well, here's a man walking in my furniture store. He obviously wants a recliner. How stupid. I'm going to ask you questions. You may be in there again for a bedroom set with all the lace and everything, and because that's what your wife wants. You may want those, I don't know, a 4-poster bed with the little things that come down from the roof or whatever, right? That's fine. As long as you buy it from me, you can buy anything you want. Okay, but I'm not going to assume anything. You've got to ask good questions.
Okay, fantastic. Let's motor over to marketing automation for a minute, because that's another part of your content. And when you're speaking of marketing automation, I'm assuming you're speaking of like if you sign up on a website and they get an email automatically and things are set up to market for you automatically, stuff like that. Is that correct?
That's the absolute bare minimum that somebody needs, okay? Mm-hmm. You need some type of autoresponder on your website. I talk to people all the time. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday out in Florida, and I asked him, straight up, what do you do on your website now when somebody hits this contact us? He's like, I get an email with all their info. I'm like, what do you do with it? I put it in an Excel spreadsheet and I try to follow up. At a minimum, I can show people how there's freebie tools out there like MailChimp. I've got other platforms that I represent. You can start it for $1 and then $19 a month. That'll give you an autoresponder. You can create it. You can create different follow-up sequences based on different reports. Okay, so for instance, on the furniture store, you could have something 7 ways to make over your living room for under $100. 3 things to do to lighten up a dark room for under $50. Things like that. And people would say, well, why would you show them tips to do something for free or for cheap? And it's because when you give away your best stuff for free up front, you're building trust. Okay? So those free or cheap people can go do it on their own and not waste your time. But others, they'll get that report and they're like, oh, never mind. I don't want to do this. I'm just going to go buy a new lamp from you or a new ceiling fan, or I'm going to buy your remodel, package. I'm going to hire one of your consultants. So you have different reports, and that way you can follow up with them in the way that's relevant to them. Okay. If you come in for your wife, for your anniversary, for a dinette set, I'm going to speak to you on those terms. Ways to make over a kitchen, ways to make over a dining room. I may send in things, recipes because obviously y'all use that table. So that means you're eating, right? So it means you like to eat at home and cook versus eat out. So those are little assumptions you can make that are safe because it's based on education, right? On a data point. So at a minimum, you need that. But then ideally you have some type of pipeline automation. So you can have stages in the pipeline, right? When you first get that report, you're just a lead. If you click on something or engage or call for an appointment or come in, now you're a warm prospect. You move through the stages. You ask for a quote on something. Now I'm moving you along these stages. Now you're asking for a quote. You're expressing real interest. I can put a dollar value around that, right? You're looking at my $500 dinette set. You're looking at my $5,000 dinette set. And when are you looking to buy? Well, my anniversary is at the end of the month. Okay, this is an opportunity for this month. So you need to have triggers that run and fire off of different actions taken by that prospect. And then you, as the salesperson, can keep updated, and then the sales manager can look at that entire pipeline for the entire sales team and come up with an accurate forecast so they know what's coming down the pipe, right? So they can begin to make educated decisions on marketing. Maybe they can dial the marketing back because the pipeline is full. Maybe they can ratchet it up because the pipeline is full and they really want to blow it up. They can make decisions on hiring, on expanding, office space or whatever. So you need these types of little steps. You ever watch that show, How It's Made?
Oh, yes.
On like National Geographic or Discovery. My kids love it, right? And everything has a process. I don't care if you're making paper clips, or custom guitars. They all have a process, and all of them, even the handmade stuff, will usually have some machinery and some automation. You don't have to totally 100% handmade, but most things have some type of assembly line and automation going through for some portion of it. And it's really the only way to scale. Otherwise you're going to keep, just throw bodies at it. And, people are the most expensive and the most uncertain part of any business. And so I mentioned McDonald's earlier, because of their processes, they can afford to have a 300% turnover, and they can turn a profit, with 300% turnover, mainly staffed by hormone-raging, pimply-faced teenagers. Okay, so that shows you the power of systems and processes and even automation. And I always tell people, whatever you do 2 or 3 times a day, 4 or 5 times a week, figure out a way to automate it. Okay, and that goes down. I use a Mac, I use an iPhone, but there's applications for PCs and Androids called text expanders. My email is very long, wes@salesword.com. So why type that out all the time? So I have a short code, WESE, for E for email, right? I type that in, boom, it spells out my email address. I type in my ad, ADD, it spells out my address. My cell, spells out my cell phone. So all those things, you think it's not a big deal, but if I type my email address 50 times in a day, and I don't know, I save 5 seconds, well, that adds up, right? That's almost 50 minutes just by doing something that simple. Not into that math, right? But you get my point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've got to expand things and automate as much as you can.
Well, Wes, that is a ton of killer information. I can tell you've got a lot more to divulge. Unfortunately, we don't have the time. However, if people want to know more, want to hear you speak and such, how do they get a hold of you?
They can just go to thesaleswhisperer.com and find everything they need to know. They can track me down there with no problem.
Okay, very good. Well, folks, you heard it here, and remember, Wes has written a couple books, and one, The Definitive Guide to Infusionsoft, and the other one, It Takes More Than a Big Smile, a Good Idea, and a Twitter account to build a business that lasts. No truer words have been written, I'll bet. So Wes, thank you very much for joining us, pulling back the curtain, giving us a peek into what's going on. I'm sure the listeners got a lot out of that.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.